Okay. Good evening and welcome to this West Orange Board of Education Public Board meeting of March 14th, 2022. You'll notice we're short a few members this evening. We've had some family things that they needed to take care of tonight. And this also of note is this is Dr. Cascone's last board meeting with us. So we are very sad about that, but we will be having a little break in our board meeting to celebrate with some cake, since we know he loves cake. And then Ms. Flowers, would you like to do the roll call?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Roll call, please. Ms. Huerta. Mr. Rock.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson. Vice President Rothstein.
Here.
President Tunnicliffe.
Here.
Thank you. Notice of meeting. Please take notice that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the following manner: that a written notice was sent from the office of the Secretary of the Board at 4 p.m. on January 7th, 2022. That said notice was sent by regular mail to the West Orange Township Clerk and the editors of the West Orange Chronicle and the Star Ledger. That said notice was posted in the lobby of the Administration Building of the Board of Education. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to have consideration of the closed and public meeting minutes of February 28th. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Yes, so moved.
A second?
Second.
Great, thank you. That was Mr. Rothstein with the motion and Mr. Rock with the second. Wonderful, thank you. And now we have our.
I'll take a vote, Ms.
I
President
apologize.
Tunnicliffe.
Yes, a vote.
Okay. Mr. Rock.
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein.
Yes.
President Tunnicliffe.
Yes.
Thank you.
And now we have our student liaison reports. Take it away.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So this past Sunday, students from West Orange High School's marching band, as well as the West Orange High School's Mountaineer Squadron, marched in the town's St. Patrick's Day Parade. Both groups performed expertly. The marching band provided spectacular music, and the color guard showed a performance just as amazing. The AFJROTC Mountaineer Squadron marched expertly and in line as their honor guard presented the colors, and their rifle team showed some moves.
Spring sports started, and the girls and boys lacrosse teams, softball, baseball, and track have all begun their new seasons. Track and girls lacrosse has started off with an explosive seasons, and we hope the rest of West Orange sports teams do so as well.
Also, the West Orange High School is the drama department is coming with a production of Into the Woods, and it premieres on April 8th at 7 p.m. In the West Orange High School auditorium, and on April 9th as well as April 10th. And the tickets can be purchased online. Also, the West Orange High School dance classes held a production in the auditorium on February 24th themed Level Up, which revolved around a concept of a live video game. And I personally was there, and it was spectacular.
2 Fridays ago, students from West Orange High School organized a protest against the school's current no do-rag policy. Students came together in a show of solidarity, chanting, singing, and listening to speeches from West Orange High School's own students.
And And finally, personally, from the two liaisons here and those who are not here, we would like to wish Dr. Cascone in his future and thank him for his hard work and dedication to West Orange Public Schools. And that is all.
Okay, Dr. Cascone. Superintendent report, please.
Indeed. Thank you, President Tunnicliffe. First up on the agenda, we have my favorite thing to do at board meetings, which is to recognize the outstanding contributions of staff and students. And Ms. Mapes, would you mind coming up? And I'm going to join you at the podium.
This is an event. This is I know.
Absolutely.
It's a judgment-free zone.
Well, it does say almost made, so.
So now, Ms. Mapes, you have the distinction of receiving my final presentation of an award, which is really quite, really completely insignificant as compared to the reason why Ms. Mapes is here tonight to be recognized. So Ms. Mapes, if you're not aware, is a theater teacher and advisor to the spring musical, the fall play.
Thespian Society and Drama Club.
Right. And on top of that is one of the most dedicated, passionate educators that I've ever encountered in my career. And perhaps it was the same reason why you were nominated and awarded this from the Speech and Theater Association of New Jersey. So I'm just going to read you some information about this. The Speech and Theater Association of New Jersey has been the voice of advocacy for the inclusion of speech and theater arts in educational curricula since 1960. They've implemented state national advocacy strategies and helped to recognize, develop, and promote the importance of teacher certification in speech and theater. The purpose is to promote excellence in the study and teaching of communication and theater arts, encouraging innovative methods of teaching speech and theater. And so this prestigious state association selected Ms. Mapes here through her exceptional service to theater arts, teaching methodologies, discipline, creativity, and support of the arts. Ms. Wendy Mapes has been awarded the Stange Theater Teacher of the Year Governor's Award. A round of applause. There's a furthermore, by the way. But furthermore, she has demonstrated knowledge, dedication, enthusiasm, and passion for the arts in a nurturing environment. This prestigious award demonstrates the teacher's conviction to the school, students, parents, administration, and community. And I cannot think of a more deserving teacher than Miss Wendy Mapes. And so, Ms. Mapes, I present to you the Certificate of Merit presented to Wendy Mapes, Outstanding Speech and Theater Teacher of Secondary Education in New Jersey, as recognized by the West Orange Public School District, West Orange Board of Education, March 14, 2022. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, and if you would just join us up here for a picture.
Yes. Thank you.
Next up is our audit presentation. Ms. Flowers, and if you wanted to take an opportunity to introduce our guest speaker, to present the findings from the audit.
Yes, thank you. We have Mr. Rob Haig here from Lurch, Vinci, and Higgins LLP. Thank you very much. He's been an outstanding support and great partner to work with, and he's here to present our audit for this, our findings and recommendations, and just where we are in terms of our finances based on June 30th of 2021's audit. Thank you.
Yeah, as Ms. Flowers said, this is your June 30th, 21 audit, so it's a little bit later than usual. There was a delay at the state level this year in getting us some information that's required for the audit. So usually you'd be getting this presentation in, December, somewheres around that. The audit's usually due on December 5th to the state, so usually you'd be getting it right around that time. But they've extended that deadline to March 15th this year to file your reports, which your reports were filed about a month ago, so you're well ahead of that deadline. And that was really just, like I said, as a result of some information that was required by the state in here that we couldn't finalize the report. So the audit was done back in the fall and probably in December. We just couldn't formally issue the report to the board until we received that information. So what we do issue, what you receive from us, there's two reports. There's a annual comprehensive financial report, which has all of your financial statements, your related note disclosures. And then there's the auditor's management report, which discusses any findings and recommendations as a result of the audit. So just to touch on a couple of highlights from both reports. In the financial report, you receive 3 audit opinions from us, one on your financial statements, one which is required of any governmental agency, really on your operations, and a third one on your state and federal grant programs. In all 3 opinions, you receive what we call an unmodified opinion. It's basically the highest assurance level we can give as auditors. You basically start at that unmodified level, and then if anything occurs during the audit that necessitates us to reduce that level of assurance, we would do that. We did not have to do that in this audit. So in all 3 instances, you did receive what we call a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion. From a financial standpoint, a very healthy year financially for the district. You ended the year with around total fund balance is what we call it, is really when all your revenues are collected and your expenditures are spent. You closed the year with about 16 million in total fund balance. Some of that is reserved for future purposes, whether it's in your budget this year, for future capital purposes. You have money set aside in that account to the tune of about $1.3 million. There's $1 million set aside for a maintenance reserve for maintenance of your existing buildings, not so much capital improvements, but just maintenance of your facilities. And then you also have an emergency reserve around 660,000, which is for that purpose, for emergency purposes. A little bit difficult to spend that. Yeah, you'd have to apply to the county to withdraw that money to use it, but could be used for any emergent circumstance of the district. And that left the district with around 10.1 million in what we call surplus. And that's right around where the state allows you to be. They allow you to keep around 4% of your budget in surplus. So you were a little bit higher now, you're about 5%. So that extra 1% will flow back into this year's budget in the coming budget as a revenue source to offset taxes. But you're right around that 4 to 5% range, which is where the state allows you to be. They used to allow you to keep 2% of your budget. They've increased that for this year and next to 4% as a result of COVID, and they kind of let districts have a little extra money in the bank to for a rainy day fund, so to speak. As far as the management report, very clean management report, especially for a district your size, very large district. We only had 2 findings in the audit. One was in the payroll area, one was in the purchasing area. But they're what we call general comments or general findings. There's 3 levels of findings we give. One is the general comment. Another one is a significant deficiency. If there's a significant area in your operations that we feel is lacking. And the third most severe one would be a material weakness. If there's a material weakness in your operations or in your financial statements. So these 2 are really of the general comment. Obviously we do a pretty thorough audit of your books. So for a district this size to have 2 comments, general comments in nature, really a positive audit. Even with the 2 comments, it's for a district your size, it's very positive. And I think both of those findings should be easily correctable if they haven't been corrected already. There'll be a corrective action plan put forth before you to address these findings, and then hopefully in next year's audit you wouldn't see them repeat again. That's my report, so we're happy to take any questions on either of our reports or anything on the audit in general. But overall, I can report very positive on the financial front and on the audit operation front.
Mr. Rock, do you have any specific questions? No? Mr. Rothstein?
No questions, just I was very happy to see how smooth and good an audit it was. And so appreciation to the team that conducted that and also to the administration for putting us in that position. Thank you for all your work.
Well deserved. Yep.
Do either of our student representatives have anything they want to, any questions you have?
Honestly, I have no questions.
That's a
I-
lot of money.
Honestly, what she said, 16 million, and I kind of like, no, honestly, from a college fund. But no, I mean, I think that just shows how great of a district we are. I mean, I can't really say anything. Like 1% surplus with the $10 million, but I'm
Do you
proud.
even know what that means?
I don't, but I'm proud. I mean, he said good things, so.
Hey, thank you so much. And thank you for the
Okay.
report. We
you.
appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good night, everyone.
You too. Thank you. And just to, may I?
Yes,
Ms.
please.
President Tucker? Just to conclude the superintendent's report, I do have an HIV report. There were two, since last board meeting, there were two HIV investigations forwarded up to me. I did review the investigative summaries. Neither of the investigations confirmed the incidents to meet the criteria of HIV. And I did review those and concur with the findings of the anti-bullying specialists as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Cascone.
You're welcome, President Tunnicliffe. And I suppose maybe, shall I say a few words at this time, President Tunnicliffe? Would this be an appropriate time for me to do so?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good evening, members of the board, our esteemed student liaisons, Ms. Flowers, folks who came out to the meeting tonight. I notice former President Trig Scales here. I think I see former Vice President Mordecai in the back as well. You know, no one would ever say I was a man of few words. I've been called a man of many words. I've been called a man of too many words a couple of times, but no one ever say I'm a man of few words. But I find myself, as I try and capture this moment, this transition, I find myself struggling to find the words. And so I'll really just make an effort to capture the emotions and the sentiments that I'm feeling now as my time here in West Orange comes to a close. I think the first one that comes to mind is gratitude. And I'm glad that in addition to board members here and have two board members in the audience who were on the board that hired me. And so first and foremost, I would just express gratitude to Mr. Scales, Ms. Mordecai, at that time, President Alper, at that time, Vice President Trick Scales, Board Member Merklinger, and am I forgetting anyone? Oh, and Board Member Robertson as well, who took a gamble on a non-sitting superintendent, had faith in me and confidence in me, and I will be eternally grateful for that opportunity, and I'll be eternally grateful to this board. I've had the absolute honor to work with incredible boards here. Absolutely amazing boards. As far as I'm concerned, the best kinds of boards you could possibly ask for as a superintendent. Diligent, thoughtful, asked good questions, but at the same time, gave space to me as the superintendent to administer and manage the school district. And I can't thank you enough for that. I am filled with a sense of gratitude for the staff, for the parents and guardians and caretakers, for our students through just absolutely incredibly difficult times. This community did not just survive. This community got better. This community is actually, I believe, better now than it was when we entered this pandemic. And that was a function of our collective efforts. We did that through a once in a century, public health, event. We did that through, once in a generation, civil advocacy and change. And yet we came out of it, I would argue, more unified than ever as a community. And I think that just speaks to the quality of this community. And it has been truly an honor and privilege to lead it. When I came into West Orange had been through some really difficult times. In fact, I was at Washington School this morning, and the principal shared with me a story, which I'm not going to go into detail because it narrates a dark time in our community, in our school district. But I just remember thinking to myself at that time when she shared that story, a number of things, but wow, I think we're really in just such a better place now, such a more peaceful place, a unified place. And while much of my administration, my tenure was overshadowed by the pandemic, and we had to just manage what was in front of us, I think that's perhaps what I would consider our greatest achievement, was to to move beyond that and into a place where we have a greater degree of stability and can really continue to move forward. I will say that probably my greatest achievement, Bahram, was the fact that the students cared enough about the superintendent to actually create a fans page on Instagram. All kidding aside, to me, that's the ultimate litmus test of the success of the superintendent, that the students that you serve actually know who you are and appreciate who you are and celebrate who you are. I'll never forget that. It's the last 2 weeks have been really constructive. Dr. Schoen has been in now for 2 weeks. She's been sort of embedded in the district, transitioning and sort of we've sort of been shadowing each other, to be honest. I would have hate to have left West Orange and feel as if the district was not in capable hands. I want to commend the board for an outstanding job in finding an interim superintendent who is supremely capable and experienced. I've had really the pleasure of working with her for 2 weeks and learning from her. And I really feel that the district is in good hands during this transitional period. And you have a board that takes the charge of hiring a new superintendent very seriously. And if I were a community member here, I would have every faith and confidence that they're going to do an outstanding job. I can tell you just in closing that if people say, "Oh, are you happy?" And I say, I'm not there yet. I'm hopefully enthusiastic. I feel very positively about the new opportunity, but it's difficult to feel a true sense of happiness now because there is certainly a sense of sadness to be leaving the community behind. But listen, I'm up for being invited up. So don't hesitate if you ever feel like there's an event you'd like to have me at. I'd love to come back up and visit. And this experience through which we've lived together for the last 2 years will forever bind us together. And it has been, again, a true honor and privilege. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cascone.
And that, President Tunnicliffe, is my final report.
Thank you. So we're up to the point in the meeting where we will take questions from the public on agenda items. So
good evening, board members, Dr. Cascone and Mrs. Flowers. I haven't stood here in well over 3 years, so this is a very different perspective, but a nice one, a nice one. And I just wanted to welcome Mr. Rock to the board. Nice to see you at the table. So this is all about Dr. Cascone, my comments this evening. I well remember your first board meeting. We were right here. I remember meeting your lovely wife, Diana, your beautiful daughters, and your mom and dad. And your dad came over and hugged me. And he said, "Thank you so much for giving him the opportunity." And I just thought, oh my God, if this is the dad, we certainly picked the right man for the job. And so it has been a pleasure and an honor to work with you. As a fellow educator, I think we had a different kind of relationship because I kind of knew the inside story to what was happening at the table. I just want to say that I know that your tenure here was not what you dreamed of, but know that you were the superintendent that we dreamed of coming to West Orange. And if there was a pandemic foxhole, I would not have wanted to be in any other pandemic foxhole with anybody else other than you. You led us through the challenge. and with dignity and grace and great character, and I thank you. And so I have a little Apache blessing I want to leave you with. May the sun bring you new energy by day. May the moon softly restore you by night. May the rain wash away your worries. May the breeze blow new strength into your being. And may you walk gently through the world and know its beauty in all the days of your life. Godspeed and farewell, and I'll see ya. Take care.
Being a numbers guy, no surprise, I have some questions on the audit. My first question is, and I really know the answer to this, but I think it has to be explained to the public. Oh, Adam Kramer, 20 Moran Road, West Orange. The first question I really know the answer to, but I think it's something important that the public has to know in reading the numbers. So I'd like it explained. When the budget came in for 2021, I think it was about 173, 174 million. But at the end of the audit, I believe it's 202 million in change. And I'd like just somebody to explain, I know the reason, but for the public, why that becomes, there's that disparity. Because I think it's an important concept for taxpayers and citizens to know. My second question is, I just made the observation that at about 202 million, and yes, this includes the FICA payments from the state and other things, and your enrollment about 6,800, which I believe to be correct, more or less. My math shows up 29,700 a student. Is that accurate? And I have another question with one line item. I just don't remember what it was about, but there was, I think, about $1.25 million in there for litigation on the audit. I just don't remember what that was for. Without going into confidential details, somebody could just tell me that. And the other thing I noticed is that you have a surplus. And if you read the papers about what Governor Murphy's proposed budget, state aid's going to bear pretty well for this community. Does that mean you can promise some tax relief and a simpler budget? Those are my questions. Thanks.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sandra Mordecai, 516 Pleasant Valley Way. Dr. Cascone, just wanted to come and say a few words. Thank you for your service. It was a tough few years, challenging, especially with COVID and HVAC issues. I was only on the board with you for a year and know how hard you work and how eager you are to ensure student success. I don't know if I told you, but I was early for a meeting, sitting in my car, and I saw you running into the high school building for executive session. Not sure why, because we were going to give you help. May you continue to be that eager, have that drive and passion, and for the best job ever, which is making sure students, staff have the tools to succeed. Thank you, and welcome to Dr. Schoen, and best wishes to you in your new job. And for questions on the agenda. On the agenda, there's an item on page 8, I think it is. Wait, let me see. I'm sorry. Page 11, item 6 for EI Associates, the engineering services for the administration building, and also for them again for Washington Elementary School number 5. I know that the district, the board is probably planning to upgrade central office as part of one of the recent board hearings. And I know you're planning to do trailers at Washington School. I know this agreement for tonight, the resolution for tonight is for the wall. Please don't put trailers at Washington School. And this wall This can has been kicked down the road for 10 years. Of course, most of that not under your tenure, but it started at 250,000, then 500, then 800. Now it's up to 1.1 million. I'd like you to make that wall at Washington a priority. And I'd like you not to put trailers at Washington. As the only school in the district that has pretty much no diversity and very little green space, shouldn't be putting 2 more trailers there. There's already 2 there. There's room at Gregory, Redwood, to build another classroom on the back. The strategic plan is well overdue. It expired in 2021. Also, the demographic study that was last done in 2017, you need to take a look at all of that and also review the properties owned by the district. I don't know the last time the Stag Field lease was renewed, but you should look at that. Also, the land by Liberty, that's still owned by the school district. And if you're going to spend upwards of 8 million to upgrade central office, please make that the preschool building and not put trailers at Washington. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Elmani Esvani, 186 Forest Hill Road, West Orange. So tonight is your last night, huh? Man. It's funny, I have to acknowledge this. What many of you don't know is that in 2020, I became an administrator at my high school, right when the pandemic hit. And I will tell you that though you would think a lot of our conversations was about West Orange and my kids, it actually was about how to navigate through the pandemic. I want to say this for the record for everyone. You have to understand what leadership is. It's not about being 100% right, especially in time of crisis, because there is no 100% right. It's the process of thinking things through and trying to make the best decision in a situation where it's almost no win. And a lot of our conversations and just thinking things through, my level of respect. And he was giving me ideas. I had 500 kids under me, and of course he had an entire district, but you're still in line trying to figure out, how do you keep kids alive? How do you keep things going? And so listen, salute to you, because you helped me. I mean, you helped me a lot in my position and everything. So, my respect for you. The last thing though, I want to just shift. I know we're having this wonderful standardized test going on. I just want to make this recommendation for next year. I know that the district does not have control over this. Totally understand that. But one of the things I would like for you guys to consider for next year's junior class is maybe on the high school end, asking, maybe think about asking the teachers to relax their assessments. Here's why. The kids this year, my son is a junior, so the kids this year had the SAT. Then they have to take this wonderful standardized test. I'm saying that sarcastically. And then they have to take their regular tests and quizzes. But once again, they're juniors. We're talking about the middle of the third marking period. It's also the marking period that we know where kids are most mentally exhausted. For juniors, it's the most critical one because it actually can impact their overall GPA. And so if you have significant assessments or projects that is happening during the third marking period, especially for students applying to competitive colleges, that just grade decrease could impact anything between getting into an Ivy League school or acquiring an academic scholarship or full ride, because that competitive level. So I get it. It's too late for my son, but I'm thinking about the juniors of next year and the students after this. Really consider what we can control in terms of the assessments for that week for students in those classes. Okay, thank you.
do you want to start with Mr. Kramer's questions?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
No, I was going to defer to our business administrator. I would say
Okay.
with regard to the final one on the surplus tax relief, Mr. Kramer, we will be presenting the well, actually, I won't be, but Dr. Schoen and Ms. Flowers will be presenting the preliminary budget on the 24th, at which time they'd be prepared to speak to that. The other items as they relate specifically to the audit, Ms. Flowers?
Yes, Mr. Kramer, if you would be so kind to email me those questions so that I can look into them. I didn't get them down perfectly and I don't want to give any incorrect information. So if you'd be so kind to email those to me, I'd be happy to look at that report and see what line items you're talking about. Thank you. I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. And let's see, I think Ms. Mordecai had some questions for us. So
Happy to,
do you want to?
if you wish, President Tunnicliffe.
Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mordecai. I appreciate the questions. So actually, I'll defer the strategic action plan question to you because right. Right. So noticing that the proposal from EI with regard to the retaining wall. So I believe at the previous meeting, we had our architects and engineers take a look at that wall, get a new look at it. And the report that came back from them was that this really needs to get done and done as quickly, as soon as possible. And so, kudos to Ms. Flowers, and kind of digging into looking into our reserve funds, and also into prospectively what we're likely going to be able to carry over into next year. And we are able to fund that project out of capital reserve this year. So this proposal represents the first step in the process of the architectural firm doing the design work. And then the project will move forward in its various phases. I would imagine starting with notifications to the residents who are in proximity to the wall and progressing from there. I'm not prepared to talk about what the timeline for the completion of that project would be, but it is set to begin this year. And I would imagine would progress into the summer. Just a note on, I did, and I think it was Mr. Rock, you were present for the public relations meeting, and that was
No.
council liaison meeting. That's right. It had to have been at least 4 weeks ago, 4 to 5 weeks ago. And at that meeting, we discussed a number of different options and just tried to gather some information from Councilwoman Castellino as to other possibilities in town, properties that we might be able to utilize for the preschool when our lease ends at the Life Christian Church, the Betty Madalena Early Learning Center. That's 3 years. So we basically have 3 years to find an alternate location. Now, in terms of the Liberty property, my understanding is, I did inquire about that. My understanding is that land borders wetlands, and I'm not definitive on that, but my understanding is that we may not necessarily be able to build on that land. But we are, moving forward, looking at various options. Now, as far as the trailers go, and I spoke to this a little bit at the last meeting, and I'll kind of go over it. So making our current preschool classes full day is a prerequisite to apply for the grant. So in order to be eligible to apply for that grant, all of our classes have to be full day. Now, if we make all of our classes at the MELC full day, we no longer can house all of our classes at that facility, because now we have AM and PM classes, which means we need additional spaces to house the remaining classes at Betty. Now, you're probably aware that we actually already have some spillover from Betty to Washington School. I believe we have, I think we have at least 2 sections of preschool, the 2 sections of preschool at Washington School. So because there are already temporary classroom units there, if we were to place, we don't have space within our schools. And if we were to place TCUs at another school, now we would have taken our Betty program and split it up into 3 different sites. So that's, that's essentially the rationale behind it. It's also a short-term solution, certainly no more than 3 years, because after that third year, we'd be prepared to open up a new facility. Now, the board office is not off the table, but we do have a feasibility study on that, and that is a possibility. That raises a couple other questions, including where our board offices get relocated and things of that nature. I think the long and short of it, Ms. Mordecai, is that nothing is necessarily set in stone. I will relay this feedback back to Mr. Mendez, Ms. Hanratty, as well as Dr. Schoen. But in order for us to have those classes elsewhere, it would now put the Betty program in 3 separate sites. So that was the rationale for temporarily putting the TCUs at Washington School. President Tunnicliffe, do you want to speak to the strategic action plan?
Certainly, thank you. So we are well aware the strategic action plan is well overdue, and we are postponing it because we would really like to see the new permanent superintendent come on board. I've discussed this with Dr. Schoen, and she strongly recommended that we wait until we get input from this new superintendent. That it is something that this new person will have the responsibility for ushering through along with the board, and should have input in making those decisions as well. So we are going to postpone that for a little bit longer so that we can have that input once the new permanent superintendent comes on board.
And I would just, what I probably should have started with, Ms. Mordecai, before I got into answering your questions, was just thank you again for your kind words. And that's you caught me running into the high school. That's funny story. I guess that's what's that expression? Character is doing the right thing when nobody's watching. So thank you. I will continue to try and keep that spring in my step. And Mr. Viney, thank you, sir. Mr. Viney and I have had a sort of a professional professional partnership, if you will. I can say I've appreciated that. Piscataway, correct? Piscataway high school is fortunate to have you, sir. I will take your feedback relative to the assessments and convey that to Mr. Mendez. I agree. And student liaisons, we need to start raising the student voices to Trenton and to the New Jersey Department of Education, and let your voices be heard. Unless, of course, you like a lot of standardized testing. I don't want to be presumptuous, but start raising those student voices, because they need to hear more from our students as well as from our leaders in education, that they are really stifling us with assessments, and certainly well-intentioned, but we're being over-tested. So agreed, duly noted, Mr. Viney. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. For board reports, do you have anything, Mr. Rock?
The next council liaison meeting, I believe, is next week. So we have no report on that committee. That'll be forthcoming at the next meeting. Then on the legislative end, last week, the governor issued his budget address and his proposed budget. 2 items of note. One is that West Orange is slated to receive a large increase in state aid. We'll talk about that more at the budget workshop, I'm sure, but that's good news. It gives us a little bit of breathing room as we go into that. The governor also doubled down on his commitment to pre-K expansion. So again, knowing that that is one of our goals, it's a good thing to know that the state is going to continue to fund that. And hopefully that means we have a good shot at the grant.
Yes, thank you. Vice President Rothstein?
No report right now. Is this on? No report from policy, but I'll be regrouping with Mr. Stevenson on that. And I know we have some action we need to take.
Yes. And in terms of the PR committee, we did meet last week, and a couple things we are working on are the website and creating sort of a structure for to remind everybody of the chain of command as that we're working on to ensure that people know where to go, kind of where do you find it here in the Board of Education. So we're working on that as well. And that's a little bit of a summary. And I think we're going to take a quick break now. The board has a little presentation, a gift for Dr. Cascone to thank him for his years of service here. While it was shorter than we all anticipated, I think I echo Ms. Trickscale's statement that I don't think we would have wanted anybody to have gotten us through the last 2 years of this pandemic. You know, I think you did a great job, and we're going to miss you, but I do feel we're in good hands with Dr. Schoen, who we asked to take a step back tonight so that we could honor Dr. Cascone. And so that's why she's not here tonight, but she is watching at home. So hi, Dr. Schoen. So Mr. Rothstein, do you want to present the gift? And then we're going to take a brief break because we do have cake for Dr. Cascone. So we invite the public to join us for a piece of cake.
Third cake today.
I can just say, we know that one of the things that you were hoping to achieve with this change is to get a little more time with your family. And what better way to spend time with your family than around the table in celebration? And so just something for your table that we hope will bring you joy and some closer time with your wife and your daughters.
Thank you so much. Beautiful.
So we'll take a little break right now. Do you? No. Okay.
Thank you.
So please join us outside. Great, and welcome back for the conclusion of our Board of Ed meeting, this final meeting of Dr. Scott Cascone. So we will go into our personnel. I'd like to have a motion to accept all personnel items from item A through, let's see, A through, let me see, 1 through 6, and then I'm looking for B. No, actually 1 through, I feel like I'm missing a letter here. So it's all A, all personnel items, including the addendum on number 3 appointments, including B, number 4, and number 7. So do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rock. Second?
All right, seconded.
Thank you, Vice President Rothstein. Okay, and then as we move into item B. Oh, a vote.
No discussion?
Oh,
For personnel?
discussion. Sorry, see, cake went right to my head. Any-
Sorry, if you don't mind, just let me look real quick. Sorry, we have multiple versions here, so I'm looking for the right copy with my notes. Not in a hurry, are you? Okay. No, and I'm sorry, actually for A, no questions.
No question. Oh, I just wanted to note that item number 6 is not a new position. It's an existing position, and we're just updating the job description to include additional tasks that this person was already doing, and it doesn't affect the budget in any way. And so I'm not remiss. I would also like to acknowledge the retirements that we have coming up and congratulate our folks on their upcoming retirement. So we have Paula Lipkin from Redwood, who is a special education teacher. She's retiring after 22 years in the district. So congratulations, Miss Lipkin. And we have Julie Matz our library media specialist right here in West Orange High School, retiring after 10 years. And Anne Zhang from Liberty, who does STEM education and, oh, sorry, that's not a retirement, apologize. But yes, congratulations, everyone. Okay,
Okay, a vote for personnel. Mr. Rock,
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein,
Yes.
President Tunnicliff.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now curriculum and instruction. Do I have a motion to accept items 1 and 2? Oh, and one on the addendum, apologize, yes. Item number 3.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Thank you. Vote,
Any discussion for?
any discussion?
Just wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the dissertation proposal. On the addendum number 3 was What Makes a Good Teacher by Nicole McCardle. So just curious.
So this is actually a study that'll be done at 2 elementary schools, at Hazel and Washington Elementary Schools. It does involve the participation of students, obviously only with the voluntary consent of parents. And it will solicit student feedback as to the characteristics and traits of an effective teacher. Then that could be expressed either through the written word or for younger students through pictographic representations of the qualities that our students find to be of effective teachers. You welcome.
May I?
Certainly.
I know that this question was answered for me earlier, but regarding item number 2 under curriculum and instruction, the Gravity Goldberg program, maybe just more as a statement than a question, but just to restate, I understand that all teachers in the district grades 3 through 5 will participate in this training.
That is accurate, Mr. Rothstein.
Okay, great, thank you. And and you also mentioned it's by grade level, correct?
Correct.
Great. All right, terrific. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
So can I ask a question on this same Gravity Goldberg? I think the original approval of the contract said up to $5,000. Is this then close out our contract with them?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, if no further questions, we can take a vote.
Mr. Rock,
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein,
Yes.
President Tunnicliff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so for the finance section, I would like to have a motion to accept C, all the items under finance. That would include section A, special services, B, the business office, bills list.
So moved.
and- Thank you.
And seconded.
Thank you, Vice President Rothstein and Mr. Rock. Any discussion on these items?
Just one question I wanted to bring up the discussion about the item number 12. This is under B, business office, item 12. Let's see, and I lost my place here. Thank you, the effective school solution. And so we discussed it. This is funded through the ESSER grant this year. And then there were some interesting points that came up in discussion with regard to whether this is a program that would want to be continued. And I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit of information about the value and what it does offer to some students who need this program in our district, and then some thoughts on funding into the future.
Sure, be happy to, Vice President Rothstein. I appreciate the question. So Effective School Solutions is it's a program that's has a fairly wide footprint within New Jersey, operates in a number of public school districts, including some neighboring ones. And what this program essentially does is it provides an in-school therapeutic setting where there are clinicians that are employed through Effective School Solutions, but that we create a space within the high school that provides a setting where students, and just to give you kind of a rough idea of what a day can look like, where students would report there in the beginning of the day, prepare to engage in their school day, typically report back in the middle of the day for lunch, and then would report back at the end of the day prior to going home. And it is designed for students who are experiencing, psychiatric or psychological challenges, and that who would benefit from a more therapeutic setting that typically a public school district cannot offer. And what's the benefit of that? Well, it's multiple. One is that for non-special education students, regular education students who might simply be encountering mental health challenges can use this. Special education students who are in need of a sort of a step up program, a more therapeutic environment, we have the opportunity to offer that as an intermediate step between our district and an out-of-district placement. And it also represents an opportunity for a step down program for students who may be out of district already in therapeutic settings and who themselves or their families are interested in and would like to bring their children back home to their community school. It represents an opportunity for that. And it's really in that third option that the program has the possibility of becoming budget neutral moving forward. Because if we have 3 of our students currently in out-of-district placements who, through a win-win collaborative conversation, the decision is made, would like to come back to this program, they now can be educated within our program, thereby representing a savings in that tuition, that out-of-district tuition and transportation. Now, that's not a fait accompli. That's not necessarily going to happen, but it does represent a possibility moving forward. I would suggest that the value of this program to our students, even if we're able to just partially offset the cost, is particularly at this time in what we're seeing in terms of mental health challenges, represents a worthwhile investment in the district.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it sounds very much, I didn't mean to suggest that it's only worthwhile if it pays for itself into the future. It does sound like a number of students and families would be well served by this program. So, but thank you for adding the detail there.
You're welcome. And by the way, I didn't think you were suggesting that at all.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Knowing you like I do, you would never suggest something like that. And I mean that seriously. I'm not kidding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We vote?
Finance,
Yes.
Mr. Rock,
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein,
Yes.
President Tunnicliff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And item D, we have the reports. This is for the what's that? Description? No.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So moving forward, I'd like to have a motion to accept the reports for the Hiv report ending March 14th, 2022.
So moved.
And seconded.
Any discussion?
No.
Ms. Flowers, could you take the vote?
Mr. Rock,
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein,
Yes.
President Tunnicliff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And finally, we have the miscellaneous item on the agenda, which is the recommendation for approval of a revised 2021-2022 district calendar. Dr. Cascone, do you want to give us some color on this?
I sure would, President Tunnicliff. Thank you. As the district's aware, we did use one more emergency day than we had budgeted. So we used 4, we had 3. So we did have to come up with a solution for that fourth day. And after some deliberation internally amongst administration, we did decide to put in a half instructional day on June 7th on primary day. I have reached out to Chief Abbott, and we will have a uniformed officer on site at each of our schools that serve as a polling station, as well as coordinating our security to ensure that our student staff are, at the highest level of safety. As we know, we'll have some voters on campus. So that's, and we're praying that we have no more snow. So.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. Motion or yes? Do I have a motion to accept item E?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rock.
And seconded.
Thank you, Vice President Rothstein. Ms. Flowers, would you kindly take the vote?
Mr. Rock,
Yes.
Vice President Rothstein,
Yes.
President Tunnicliff.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have petitions and hearings of citizens, and this can be on agenda items or any non-agenda items that you'd like to bring forward. You will have 3 minutes on the clock. And please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
At the board meeting 2 weeks ago, I believe it was Mr. Rothstein challenged me to be part of the budget presentation and to say, where would I cut and what's important? And I thought that was an absolutely fair question to ask. So I will explain. I really believe that every child needs to have a chance to learn and develop intellectually. I would avoid any cuts to early literacy and early numeracy, because that is where you create your base. And if you get behind in the early grades, your remediation in the later grades is more expensive and less effective. So that would be where I would focus it. I would go back to what you suggested last year before a whole bunch of naysayers said no, and get rid of courtesy busing. It may not be popular. I sided with you and I got hammered on social media for it. And quite frankly, if you want to say no, and to those people who will scream at you when you get rid of courtesy busing, you can give them my cell phone number. I'll say no to them for you. No problem. But that's something that you can jettison. And I think you have to look at some of the lesser used sports and lesser used clubs as an efficiency. And I also think that you have to, through attrition, look at your staffing level. I mean, there's no easy way to say it. It's not fun, but really over 3/4 of your budget is staff, salaries and benefits. So you have to look at that. Hopefully in such a way, in cooperation with the union, that you can do it by attrition rather than layoffs, because layoffs are just nasty and you want to try and avoid them if you can. So those are the things I would look at the most as areas you could cut. And it's important that you do this. And I'll explain why. Budget making is hard and it's a trade-off. We're a progressive community, but most people don't realize this. We tax progressively. Your school tax is effectively, because landlords flow through to tenants, a 15 to 20% school tax on rent. So you have people who are single parents, seniors on fixed incomes paying that. And that's something you have to really balance when you go through the hard part of budget. I wish you luck and well on your budget. You're good people. I trust you to do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
again. Sandra Mordecai, 516 Pleasant Valley Way. First of all, I'd just like to say kudos to the students for standing up for their rights and beliefs last week. I hope they're being heard. On another point, before I got off the board, we were looking to add fencing, a crew team, and ping pong, and looking at more after-school activities for a diverse student population. Fencing was added, but it needs support. There isn't a Facebook page or parent booster club. There isn't a rec department program, although there was an interest meeting for middle school grades about 3 years ago. Please give an update when you can. And congratulations to the girls fencing team, which advanced to states last week. And I didn't see anything about it on the Facebook page. I heard from a mom. I saw a post on the website about the high school receiving recognition from Synergistic. I'd like to know if this is a vendor and if there was an RFP. How much does that cost to lessen our carbon footprint again? What happened to the Honeywell agreement? Because these same things were included in that $11 million bond under ESIP. The Honeywell relationship included STEM curricula. Please put a note to follow up for the new administration to review and see if there's anything that fits West Orange High School and any of the Fight for Green initiatives. Belleville has an Amistad compliance coordinator. I'd like to know if you plan to assign this to existing staff. And let's see. Is there an ongoing Orton Gillingham professional development training? About the time I got off the board, I believe most of the training was centered in Kelly School, and I thought it was going to be rolled out to all 7 elementary schools. I saw some social media chatter about Gregory not having Orton Gillingham. As you may know, it's crucial to students that have dyslexia, and I discovered that for my own personal situation. There's a teacher shortage currently, particularly men and men of color. I know there's a program at the high school called Tomorrow's Teachers. Please encourage more students, especially Black male students, to take the course. Budget ideas. Please review and explore refinancing the district's existing debt. I believe it was $50 million a few years ago. I don't know what it is now. And lastly, currently there's also a bus driver shortage. Has the driver's ed program expanded to include commercial driving? We had started exploring that a few years ago, and they're parts of the CDL that can be done at the high school. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rothstein, would you like to respond to Mr. Kramer?
You caught me off guard a little bit. I thought you meant that I had challenged you directly, but I recall now what you mean is that I had asked anyone, really everyone in the community to put some thought into where your values lay with regard to the schools as we enter this budget season. And so I wanted to thank you. I appreciate you taking that seriously and coming to speak to that specifically. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Flowers, could you read the anything that's come from the Google form, please?
Thank you, President Tunnicliffe. We do have one submission from the United Asian Voices of West Orange. Good evening, everyone. United Asian Voices of West Orange would like to sincerely thank Dr. Cascone for his service and calm leadership. We wish you the very best in your next position. UAV would like to also welcome Dr. C. Lauren Schoen as the interim superintendent. We look forward to getting to know you and to providing input on the hiring of the new superintendent. In the last BOE meeting, UAV asked the board to adopt and implement curriculum mandates, including the one on Asian American and Pacific Islander history, New Jersey Amistad, and the Peoples with Disabilities and LGBT mandate. We understand some curriculum changes are underway. Please share progress reports and how the district plans to fully align the West Orange curriculum to meet all mandates. Please also update the public on where the diversity task force now stands. On a related subject, we know that the board is currently outlining its budget for next year. Thus, we strongly urge you to carve out funds to hire additional qualified teachers, pay for professional development courses, anti-bias trainings, and student-centered DEI initiatives, and to purchase newer books and materials that will support the full and thoughtful infusion of diverse voices in our schools. United Asian Voices of West Orange and our allies will continue to advocate on matters of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you for your attention and support.
Thank you, Ms. Flowers.
Once more into the breach, President Tunnicliffe.
Yes.
So thank you. Just for Ms. Mordecai's, I think they were more, I think they were questions and some food for thought. I think that, I could certainly speak in broad brushstrokes, but I would prefer not to, because I do think your question about the no pun intended, the synergy between Synergistic and Honeywell is a good question, and I think one that merits a deeper analysis with respect to that. So we've made note of that, and we'll ask Mr. Semino to take a closer look at that. Your question about OG, I know how we were approaching Orton Gillingham training pre-pandemic. Admittedly, I'll need to circle back with Mrs. Gogarty Fitzgerald and understand what the approach has been since then. I understand it was on hold a bit while we were out. As the public may be aware that that full Orton Gillingham certification is an extremely rigorous and lengthy process to accomplish. And so it's a significant time investment. However, I do think that the premise of equipping classroom teachers with a toolbox of multi-sensory reading instructional strategies and tools makes all the sense in the world. And I have, in fact, made my opinion known on that to our K-5 ELA supervisor. But that is worth a more detailed update on Orton Gillingham. Again, we've made note of all those, Ms. Mordecai, relative to the sports piece, and as well as the recruitment. So we'll present those questions and points to the relevant administrators, and perhaps I'll speak with Dr. Schoen and understand providing an update at the next board meeting. Just to speak to Chan Jarvis on behalf of UAV, just a couple of thoughts here. And first off, again, certainly appreciate the advocacy of our community members. Continue to impress with the manner in which they advocate. Good, positive, but consistent and diligent advocacy helps move the ball forward, right? It helps give that additional motivation and impetus for us to get these things done. That being said, I would like to kind of make a few qualifications here. So when we speak about adopting and implementing, the board to adopt and implement the curriculum mandates, we are provided with the mandates and the timeline within which the district has to implement and adopt them. And our curriculum update cycle is then aligned to that. Now, just a quick digression, Mr. Rock. Back in the day, we used to revise our curriculum every 5 years, and all curriculum were on a 5-year revision cycle. Then really Common Core came in, next generation science standards, the mandates, and they really kind of threw that off kilter. Because now we were put into this, it wasn't just a matter of revising every 5 years, we were sort of revising in off years, and when mandates happen to come down, regardless, we do it. We revise curriculum and the board adopts it annually according to that timeline. Just a couple of thoughts. If you have not gone to the Board of Education website and presentations, I would encourage community members to go to that presentations link. You'll see 2 presentations on the Amistad Commission that were done. You'll see several diversity presentations that were made, and these will provide important information and updates to the community as to the work ongoing. That being said, we did, of course, hear the feedback from the February 28th meeting. That has been received loudly and clearly by myself, by Dr. Schoen. She is already in communication with Mr. Mendez, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction, and the board is in agreement that you can expect a detailed presentation later in the spring. Date TBD, but I think we all agree it's a presentation that needs to occur. And some of the things that I would, if I were here, I would look forward to seeing in that presentation. Of course, the structure of that presentation is in development, is really speaking to carving out funds to hire additional qualified teachers, pay for professional development courses, anti-bias trainings, and student-centered DEI initiatives. I would love, Ms. Flowers, if you might make a note of this to pass along to Dr. Schoen and Mr. Mendez, to really present some financial information as to the investment the district has made over the course of the last 2 years, 2 or 3 years, into these types of things, because it certainly has. I'd absolutely be interested in hearing again from Ms. Mullen, our supervisor of library media services, relative to the fact that our district has received top marks from organizations with regard to the diversity audit they did of our collections, and many POs which I've signed off on from content area supervisors, where they have been deliberately diversifying the offerings, both in the level libraries and the classrooms, as well as in the media center, and including adding additional coursework. If the board recalls, we had added several additional electives to the high school for the upcoming year in areas of diversity, diverse topics. That's not to say we're resting on our laurels, Vice President Rothstein. But it just means that we have a lot of good work that's ongoing. And I think this presentation in the spring is not only a good opportunity to really provide the district, our community with an update, because they are understandably eager to understand what we've been doing. And we are understandably eager to present to them all that we've been doing, as well as to speak to some future focuses, which we are both being presented with from our community and developing internally. One other piece here was the diversity task force. The diversity task force will be reconvening soon. Dr. Pollins will be sort of taking the wheel from me in terms of working in our district diversity initiatives, and we'll be reaching out to that group shortly. And I'd like to just speak a little bit about hiring additional qualified teachers. I need to kind of give a nod to our Executive Director of Personnel Special Projects, Dr. Vespignani. And by the way, if you one of those aforementioned presentations was specifically outlining all of the new initiatives that we put in place to try and diversify our candidate pool and ultimately our hiring. In fact, I believe next week, 10 administrators from the district will be participating in the CJ Pride recruitment job fair. The district had not been members of CJ Pride. It was under Dr. Vespignani's leadership that we have become members of that organization. And of course, we do have plans to do our annual diversity recruiting fair. So again, not resting on laurels, recognizing we can always do more, but there are quite a number of things already occurring. And we look forward to presenting. Well, I don't, but if I were here, I would. But we do look forward to presenting that in the spring, and of course, continue to appreciate the advocacy presented by our community members. And that is all I have, President Tunnicliffe.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I do want to add too that the board last year developed and adopted a diversity and equity bylaw. That is a board bylaw. So it's at the top of our minds every time with everything we do. So I did want to just add that to all of the other comments that Dr. Cascone had mentioned. So let me just see here. Okay. Do we have any general board reports? Anything you'd like to say, Mr. Rock?
No, just like everyone else said, I want to say thank you to Dr. Cascone for his service here. I was disappointed to find out you'd be leaving us just as I joined the board, but I wish you the best of luck in the future. And thank you.
Vice President Rothstein?
Yes, and please just give me a moment to find my notes again. Oh, there we are. There we go. Well, yes, Dr. Cascone. I'm just going to say a few words to you, and that'll be all for tonight. So some of this has been said already, but I just wanted to, state that you came here to the West Orange community at a time when we really badly needed a change. We needed positivity, leadership, energy, and vision. And you were exactly the right person for the job at the time that we needed that. Had things gone a little bit differently, I think that the platform was set for you to just move forward with many, many years of success here in West Orange. But we don't get to pick the times we live in. What is fortunate is that good people in positions of leadership respond to the cards that were dealt. The cards that you were dealt were COVID, and this would have been a challenge for any leader, but you handled it with exceptional skill and grace and helped to bring our community through these last several years. I know we may not be completely through it. There's some optimism and some hope right now. I feel like things are much more stable than they were, and you have our gratitude for putting us on sound footing and getting us through that difficult time. Your accomplishments in the district, too numerous to enumerate tonight. I'm not going to go into my list of what I think you've done, but maybe more important than the actual accomplishments is just the man who you are and who you've been here in your time with us. Caring, thoughtful, humble, involved in everything. I don't know how you did it, but omnipresent, enthusiastic, a good man, and a good leader. You mentioned it earlier. How many superintendents in the country have a student fan club? It really does speak for itself. And I don't mean that in a teasing way. I'm stunned. I'm absolutely not stunned because it's you, but just stunned for a superintendent to be that recognizable and that much appreciated by the students in the community. Your leadership and your vision will resonate here in West Orange for many years to come. And I will very deeply miss working with you. I know the rest of the board will as well. You have my best wishes for success in your new opportunity and your new endeavors. And I certainly look forward to keeping in touch with you for many years to come.
Thank you so much, Gary. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And also just my final comments to Dr. Cascone. It was a night and I lost my glasses and I couldn't find them, and I was racing to get to this meeting of all of the PTA presidents, of which I was at liberty at the time, to come meet the new candidate for superintendent. And I was very embarrassed because I had to walk in late, and then sat down and Dr. Cascone was talking to everyone, and his energy, his enthusiasm, his intelligence, his caring really won me over. And I left that meeting so excited to have you come on board, and so excited to the fact that I threw my hat into the ring to become a Board of Ed member. So that's the impact that you had on me. You got me to do something that I knew I was going to do for a long time, but actually got me to commit to do it because I wanted to be part of what you were creating for our district for the years to come. And I think, COVID changed everything, and for many of us, and but I couldn't imagine having a leader at the helm of this district other than you to have gotten us through this. And I firmly believe that we're all in a place for a reason at a specific time. And I think you are here to get us through that, to manage this, and to do the work that had to be done to heal our district, and to be able to do the things that needed to be done. So I'm ever grateful to the former board members who had the hindsight to hire you, and just thank you for everything you've done for us for the last 2.5, 2 3/4 years. We are really going to miss you. And I sure appreciate having this brief opportunity to have worked with you. You're an incredible person, and I wish you so much luck as you move into your new role there. I hope they know what they're getting.
Thank you, President Tunnicliffe. So greatly appreciated.
So.
I think this is the time when we hug.
Group hug, bring it in.
But it was time for a motion to adjourn first.
Yes. So before we leave tonight, I just want to make sure that you all know that our next special board meeting is going to be 7 p.m. March 24th. That's our preliminary budget presentation. It'll be here right at West Orange High School. And then the next board meeting that we will have, the regular board meeting will be 7:30 p.m. on March 28th, also here at the high school. So thank you so much to everybody online. And for those of you who are here tonight, we appreciate you being with us. And the board will not go back into executive session, and there will be no other business conducted at the close of this meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is now adjourned.